Matt Towery is a man who knows polling, especially in the southern states, with what will transpire quite soon in the southeast, although it's punctuated by a journey up to New Hampshire last week. Let's call on Matt Towery, who joins us via Skype from Atlanta, and we bring back in Rick Unger, who is at Newsmax New York. Matt Towery, the expectations game is working overtime now for the third place finisher tonight. But does Ted Cruz have the momentum? It looked like he was closing a gap in New Hampshire as of 2 weeks ago. Can Cruz put it in overdrive in New Hampshire?
Well, he can. And the first thing I want to do is give credit to ourselves, Newsmax, because we were the only ones to run the Opinion Savvy poll, write it up yesterday, that showed this race was going to be this close and that Trump was not going to win perhaps at all, and that Rubio was going to be very close. So kudos to Newsmax and Opinion Savvy, which, by the way, is who I use for my polling.
For purposes of full disclosure, that's fine. You got it in there, and it was quite savvy, the polling, as it turned out. Go ahead,
guess
sir.
What? It needs to be there because nobody else got it right. Okay, let's go to New Hampshire. What's going to happen there is this. You're going to have a battle in which Cruz will gain a little traction. I don't know that he can win it because that's not a big evangelical state. And if you saw his comments that he was making, they were still geared to an evangelical audience. So he's trying to push himself towards South Carolina down the road, I think, more than New Hampshire. With regard to Rubio, though, I think there's going to be a very quick conversation with Bush, with Kasich, with others saying, look, you can't make it here, buddies. We got to put all of the money and all the time behind Rubio. If they will not do it, Rubio is going to have a more difficult time winning in New Hampshire or overcoming the situation. And I think if they will do it, it will become a more significant race. I think Trump still has the edge in New Hampshire. As we know, the Iowa winner usually does not win in New Hampshire and vice versa. So South Carolina, we're still, we said this the other day, JD, we're still on it. South Carolina and the SEC primaries are going to decide who is going to get to the big dance, and the big dance will be Florida, where maybe Marco Rubio will be the one establishment candidate. He can consolidate with Jeb Bush and have a chance to win it all and move on to the nomination. But if not, Donald Trump, who's been leading in these southern states and Florida, would go on to get the nomination. But I don't think that Cruz right now, he's still in it, but he's got a long way to go because New Hampshire is going to be sort of cold water on him, I expect.
Cold water, and the question becomes, Rick Unger, does Donald Trump maintain his lead, or does the momentum shift? What was it? Donald talked about a 28-point lead. Can he keep that kind of margin intact in the Granite State?
Well, we'll see. I mean, obviously, the other candidates are going to get a little bit of a boost coming out of this. I don't think it's going to do that much for Ted Cruz. By the way, I'm a little bit curious why nobody's pointing out the fact that the real amazing part of Ted Cruz pulling off this good win is that he is the one candidate who actually caused the voters of Iowa to vote against their own self-interest. There's a reason Governor Branstad was against Ted Cruz. Cruz is against subsidizing ethanol, which is a critical product in Iowa. So there ought to be some questions as to what caused the people of Iowa to vote against their self-interest.
Well, let's go to that, Matt Towery, because I thought Cruz, despite all the slings and arrows, did a pretty effective job explaining that in the final Iowa debate. Not that he was anti-ethanol, but that he was anti, for lack of a better term, agricultural entitlement. You needed clear energy reform, and ethanol was a part of that. Did he parry to such a degree to take away that attack in an effective way in a debate that had been judged by the Des Moines Register to be a, quote, bad night for Cruz?
Well, I think he did, and to Rick's point, which is very well taken, Cruz managed to basically blunt that issue so that it wouldn't affect him with those who would be affected by it. And at the same time, let's face it, if he had 10,000 people, as he claimed, out on the streets of the state of Iowa trying to get people to go vote, that's a heck of a ground game. I mean, we've all been in politics. We've all run campaigns. That is one heck of a ground game. And I think the ground game won out over social media and rallies and the like tonight. So between that and the fact that he did blunt that issue, I think that Cruz had a very nice night. Now, look, I'm not ruling Cruz out from making it all the way here. I mean, give you an example in South Carolina. There's a a strong evangelical vote there. It's not as strong as Iowa. It's in the northern crescent of South Carolina, but it can be substantial. So if Cruz can find a way to take what Rick alluded to, and that is the ability to take issues and blunt that otherwise appear to do him in, then Cruz could possibly make this all the way to the championship round, which I think will be Florida. But right now, it's a three-man race.
Probably won't.
Well, no,
Well,
let's not be so. Wait a minute. It's the South Carolina situation. You're mentioning the upstate. I used to live there as a broadcaster. Cruz is a Southern Baptist. There is a heavy Southern Baptist evangelical constituency in the upstate of South Carolina. But